All right, let's think about this. When it comes to e-commerce, big giants like Lowe's, Home Depot, they're really setting a higher standard and really setting expectations for buyers in this industry. And so for building material brands, a lot are considering what they can do in the e-commerce space. But creating an e-commerce engine is not enough. And for those who have e-commerce, it is not a set it and forget it game. Those who may be doing that might be setting themselves up for failure. So it's time to talk about e-commerce strategies, what brands need to be doing to see success in this space, and considerations to really strengthen their approaches here. Are you ready?
Ready.
Let's dig in. Welcome to Constructive Insights. I'm Jen Candlish, and today we are diving into the world of e-commerce in building materials. And I'm fortunate enough to be joined today by Travis MacDougall. He is a seasoned expert in digital performance marketing. So welcome, Travis. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jen. I'm really excited to be here today because this really is an evolving space right now. We're seeing a lot of building material brands starting to rethink and how they're going to market and delivering their products to their end customers. And this is really an evolving space, and a lot of brands are starting to, provide this value and starting to have their own pathways to customers and not maybe going through a retailer anymore and making that a new revenue stream.
Right. So let's talk about that, because we're not just seeing e-commerce anymore just in, direct to consumer type of setups. We're actually seeing it across B2B as well. And I think that, not only is this a competitive advantage for a lot of companies that are able to deliver in that type of channel, but I think it's also because, there's a lot of research out there that's really pointing to the fact that our worlds are pointing to better digital experiences and being able to open up that accessibility. So of course, businesses are following. Their expectations are heightened, their digital experience journeys, everything that people are approaching their business decisions is coming from not only the ways that they interact with other businesses in the space, but from their personal lives. Being able to order their own products quickly, they're going to expect that experience in their digital pathways and their purchase pathways, even in their business lives. Does this make sense? Am I kind of tapping into what we're seeing here?
So that's right, Jen. You actually hit the nail right on the head. A lot of consumers are expecting these type of experiences from their day-to-day, business needs, but they're being influenced by how they're shopping in their personal life. So take Home Depot and Lowe's, for example. So they have the consumer side of the business, but they also have their pro side of the business. And they can interact and purchase products the exact same way for their business that they would if they were an actual consumer just walking in the door. So I think those two brands have really sort of elevated the game and stepped up the game in terms of what are the expectations for these building material brands. And, if you're trying to deliver that direct to consumer experience as well, you really need to be on the same par as them, because that's the expectations that they're going to have. And, if we think back to COVID, and, it seems like so long ago now, but really we started seeing this acceleration of a lot of that. And, just think about during times when you couldn't go into stores, a lot of companies were offering these services, pick up outside based on an order that you place. And, you haven't really seen that go away. And, like I said, Lowe's and Home Depot are great examples where they still do offer those services to their customers today.
So basically what you're saying is they've set the standard and now the rest of us need to catch up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we know that e-commerce in some form or fashion, whether D2C or through retailers, is a must. We're kind of seeing that expectation, and we know that a lot of brands are getting into that space, but we know that it's not easy, and we're not saying that it's easy, right? And so I'm curious, what are the challenges that a lot of these brands are experiencing when it comes to managing their e-commerce engines?
So that's a great question. So there are a few things that are common challenges when, you're finding these building material brands first trying to go with that direct to consumer model. The first would be just building a website, thinking we'll build it and they will come. That's not the case anymore. You do have to spend a concerted amount of time and effort on how are we getting people to the site? Are we doing it organically? Are we doing it through paid media? Is there other channels of promotion that we want to use to try to promote that we can sell directly to customers now? Next is logistics and fulfillment. So, if you're obviously working through a retailer, they have their own logistics and fulfillment that they're able to deliver products to. But if you're going direct to the consumer and you don't have maybe a physical footprint or a store where people can come pick out those materials up, how are you getting the product to the end consumer? So that tends to be a really big sticking point as well. They may not have their own logistics figured out on how to get to the end consumer. And finally is data and customer insight. So because this is really new for some brands, they're not exactly sure how people are going to transact or interact with the product online. For the longest period of time, people would treat their website sort of as an online catalog. So it's an inherent difference between looking for maybe the products or the SKUs you're looking for to actually making that into a e-commerce function and delivering and being able to purchase completely online. And typically with user experience and developing sort of that flow and that easy, seamless checkout process is where a lot of time and effort gets spent, even after the website and fulfillment and logistics is sorted out.
Okay, I know I'm overwhelmed. So that's a lot to figure out. From the start of setting it up all the way through to making it successful, there's obviously a lot to think about, and this is only a quick list of things, right? So there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of obstacles, there's a lot of to-dos, if you will. So when it comes to thinking about solutions and when it comes to helping to make sure that you're creating a successful engine, what are the things that people should be thinking about then, especially our marketers in the building material space? What should they be prioritizing?
Yeah, so I think if I was talking to some marketers of some of these, building material brands, I think there would be a few things I'd get them to focus on. First being, treating the e-commerce store as an actual revenue generating channel, right? So again, there's a call out in the previous section. It's not just an online catalog, and a lot of companies still just use it as an online catalog. If you want it to be successful, you really have to put in the time and the effort to optimize it, make it a revenue driven channel. So that way, when you report back to your senior leaders at your organization, you can validate performance and show them just, how much value this is providing by adding this additional sales channel to your overall product mix. You also need to own the entire e-commerce strategy as well. So there's a lot of intention that you need to be putting behind it to make sure that, it's what your customers want, it's the experience that they want, it's the products that they want too, right? You can imagine some of these building materials are probably quite large. So, if you're only selling maybe the hand tools, it's like, well, that's great, if you need them in a pinch or something. But, if you really want sort of that fulsome experience where instead of going to like a retailer's location and buying from there, how are you going to get this product delivered and basically have a similar or a better experience going directly with you than a retailer? You also need to focus on how you're getting the traffic to the site. So, as a part of all of this, in order to show success, you need people coming to the site and engaging with it. And if your customers aren't used to your business transacting like that with them, you're probably going to need some awareness around it. You're going to have some promotion behind it and get consumers not only aware that you now offer this as a service or a channel to purchase from, but you're also going to need to make sure that you're continuously getting people engaged. Like, if they come once and never use it again, well, that doesn't help you, that doesn't help them, and it's a bit of a wasted effort. And I think finally, it's never set it and forget it. It's not just once it's up and running, okay, it's done, we can move on to other things. It's like any negotiation or any sales partner that you have, there's ongoing effort that you need to work on to help improve it, making sure your product lines aren't getting stagnant. Are you delivering the most value to them? Same way you would negotiate contracts with, Home Depot and Lowe's. It's you never set it and forget it. There's always work to be done.
And I think in relation to that, to the point of never set it and forget it, is also the never leave it off to the side or the add-on. Like, oh yeah, and our e-commerce. It really should be fully integrated in everything that you're doing as a brand to make sure that all those parts are connected in that omni-channel approach.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to try something a little fun if you're up for it. I want to do a bit of a lightning round of questions. Okay, so I'm curious, what is the kind of biggest or most common mistake that brands make when it comes to e-commerce?
Probably the biggest mistake we've seen is just setting up the site and just letting it go and expecting it to perform. So again, it goes back to, if you build it, they will come. It doesn't work like that with a website. There needs to be effort put into actually maintaining it, improving the experience, getting people coming to the site, engaging with the site, and basically proving out that it'll work. So if you just set it up and say, hey, great, well, now customers know that we have this and expect that they're just going to completely change how they've been interacting with your business or buying your products for years, even decades in some cases, that's not the case.
How can a building materials brand, improve its online presence?
I would definitely focus on sort of the traffic driving channels first. So, like SEO, paid search. You may even want to do an awareness campaign so that way you get some visibility that this is recently launched. So that's a good way to improve the visibility of your new direct-to-consumer e-commerce website. Or the functionality if the website already existed. You want to make sure that you're using, structured product definitions and descriptions as well. So anyone that's familiar with, Google Shopping or, any brand that has lots of products and services online, if you don't have the information structured in a certain way for search engines to read it and be able to help show those products to the right people when they're searching for them, either organically and through ads, that's usually another area that if you spend time doing like product specification optimization, you get a lot better visibility that way if somebody's looking for something very specific and niche. And finally, I would say enhancing user experience. So in the online space, because there's already been such a precedent set in terms of the experience that you're going to get through some of the other retailers, is really the user experience, right? So, that first impression makes a lot. If it's very clunky and hard to use, it's really hard to try to get that customer back in order to do it. Now, is everyone going to nail their customer experience first round? Absolutely not. But you do have to realize that it is a very important thing when you're going through and launching these sales channels that you usually don't get a ton of opportunities to impress the client. And if you're trying to convince them from phoning and ordering for a product or going to a big box store to purchase those products, you do sort of have to have a very high standard of yourself of what is this customer experience and is it something that they're going to enjoy and want to come back and use again.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, next one. Should brands focus more on direct sales or marketplace platforms?
So I would say it's a bit of both, and it really just depends on the business priorities. Obviously, selling through marketplaces, they already have sort of the consumers, the interest, the volume of people coming to the site looking for those products and tools or materials that companies might be searching for. But they also are selling competitor products and stuff as well, too, right? So they're really giving their consumer an option to choose from. Yes, you can have certain deals with them where they promote or feature your product. But again, you are still sort of competing with your direct competitors. I would say even more head to head because they can do a side by side comparison. But again, there's still a lot of efficacy in doing those channels. So again, think of it as supplemental, think of it as an incremental opportunity to generate sales revenue for the organization, and all depending on your business needs, you can lean in more or less on one or the other, just depending what your goals are. And it might even be from a logistics standpoint too. You might be able to have better fulfillment direct to consumer in some parts of the country, whereas some of the big box retailers, they're really the only shop in town, and maybe it makes more sense to go direct to consumers through that relationship, just even from a logistics standpoint.
All right. So say I'm a brand just starting out in e-commerce. What's the first step I should take?
So I would really say start small. Don't try to, boil the ocean. You don't have to get every product, every brand, every division online right away. I think when you start thinking about some of these larger companies too, in the thousands of SKUs that they have, it becomes very overwhelming. So start small, start simple, get a proof of concept. You want to be able to, focus on your really in-demand products. So even with that specific product line or brand that you might be starting with, what are people most likely to purchase, right? Again, just keep it simple and show that it works first. You want to make sure that your site is properly optimized for search so people can find products. So even if, they're not familiar with your site or familiar with your brand, you do have the opportunity to show up through organic search or even shopping campaigns, all depending what platforms that you're using. So you want to make sure that your products are easy to find, discoverable, and people can get the information that they want. You might want to start with a small group of your current customers. So there's more than likely a handful of customers at every business has, where they're very tech first, they're very technology first, that are probably asking you to start down this e-commerce direct to consumer road because that's how they want to interact or transact with your business. So that could be a great group of customers, to start with and kind of do user testing with them, right? So even before you do a full site launch to the public, you could use it to test with them to see what are their thoughts, how do they feel, like where are they getting hung up, like what issues or problems do you have. So and also your customers are going to be the ones that tell you, right? Are things working? Are they not working? Are these the products or that they're looking for or looking to buy from you? So it's a great source not only for input on what's working, what's not working, but also to just sort of validate, are we on the right track? Are we moving in the right direction here? So I would say those are probably the things to start with. So start small, prove your proof of concept, find a group of customers that you can maybe test with, and really see, are you in the right direction before you kind of do a full scale launch with anything.
I really like that too, because there's an interesting area with that loyalty with that group too, right? Like kind of bringing in those VIPs, if you will, right? That close knit group that you're going to test and trial with and really use their perspective to build off of. I think there's an interesting area too where that builds loyalty with them and trust with them, that you can really tap into what they're looking for to build the success of your own brand. So obviously this excites us as marketers, talking about e-commerce and thinking about adding that or strengthening that as an offering for brands. But when we think about it, in relation to competitors, is it something that can set brands apart right now, or how should they be looking at that in relation to the value that they provide and kind of standing out in this vast market?
Yeah, so especially if you're a brand that's in a space that maybe your competitors aren't doing a direct to consumer model, 100% it is a differentiator. This type of buying, this way that customers, B2B, B2C, this way of transacting is not going away. If anything, it's only going to amplify and become more and more normal as time goes on. So absolutely, if, other competitors in your space aren't offering it, it is a competitive advantage. So people that are more tech savvy will probably lean towards that and say, I'd rather just do this on my own. I know what I want and buy product that way. But on the flip side of that, if you're in a space and you're the only brand that isn't offering it, then you're actually need to play catch up, right? And it's basically table stakes. And this is the expectation within the industry. And you're the one that's maybe lagging behind if you haven't already started exploring it. And even if all of your brands or all of the competitors are offering e-commerce in the space, including yourself, you can still find differentiation in the experience that you provide to them. How are people, interacting with the brand? What's the customer experience? Are you including bulk pricing? Like if they're an actual member of the business, do they get their preferred rates through doing it? Again, there's a lot of things you can even do, even if the playing field is even from a e-commerce offering standpoint. There's a lot you can even do with your own website with your current customers to even differentiate yourself as well. So again, it's good opportunity all around. I wouldn't tell any business to shy away from it. It's just how do you get started and where to start is the big questions.
All right, so let's wrap this up for everyone. So kind of key takeaway, what I'm taking away from all of this is really, this is not a set it and forget it game. Right? So those who are doing continuous optimization, who are putting in the efforts to market and promote and bring people to their e-commerce engines, and those who are really focusing on customer experience are going to be the ones that win in this area. Absolutely. Okay, well, on that note, thank you, Travis, for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.